your colleague Ilona will be with you too? Is she going to?
Yeah, Ilona's presenting the next.
I'm actually live streaming this session.
That's it. Yes, that's great.
So how many people here use Twitter? I'd like to get a little bit of interaction happening during the presentation. So I'd like you to use Twitter. So it's a bit like in the classroom where generally the first thing the teacher will say is, please turn off your cell phones. Well, what we normally say is, please turn them on, and we want you to use them. So if you use Twitter, please use Twitter throughout here. Tweet some questions, some interaction, tweet links, that sort of thing. And what we'd like you to do is to use a hashtag so we can actually find your stuff. And the hashtag I've got there is IADIS mlearning12. Okay, so if you use that as your search term, as your hashtag, you haven't used a hashtag before, it's just a search term, descriptive term. And by putting a hash in front of it, put that in your message somewhere in your tweet, and then we'll be able to search for it. You can see a few people have been tweeting using the hashtag already. Most of these are actually my colleagues. So Ilona down here, and then there's Helen, who's actually in the UK, who couldn't make it. So she's been participating remotely via Twitter. Ma, who's in Spain, and a few of my colleagues in New Zealand as well, which is where I'm from. So you can see there's a tweet come through about from Ilona there. So what I'm interested in is the impact of mobile devices to change teaching and learning, and this is just a local context of a mobile device that I came across when I turned up here in Berlin. I've never seen this mobile device before, but it's one of my favourites because I really like sausages. So Berlin's one of my favourite places because you can get a bratwurst just about anywhere you walk down the street because there's these mobile bratwurst grills all over the place. You walk out the train station and there's someone there wanting to sell you a sausage. So Berlin's obviously on my good list. So mobile devices. What type of mobile device do you have? So this is a poll, and I'd like you to actually vote. So there's 3 ways to vote. So what you're going to vote is what type of device you have. Okay, so to vote you choose one of the codes, and the code defines the type of device. So the first one, 503391, is just a plain basic phone. It has no camera, it's just a cell phone. Okay, so I call that a vanilla cell phone because vanilla is the most basic ice cream. Then if you've got a camera phone, it's 503392, etc. And then if you've got, say, an iPhone, it's 503393. And to vote, there's 3 ways to vote. You can text, so if you only have a very basic phone, you can still text, okay? And this is an Australian number because it's hosted in Australia, so it's going to cost you whatever a text message costs you, okay? So you send your text reply to +61, so that's Australia, 429883481. So you send the text message to that number, and to that number you send one of the codes. So if you've got a basic phone, you send 503391, that will come up. If you're using Twitter, you can send your code to my Twitter username. So you can send, if you've got an iPhone, 503393 to Tom Cochran, which is my Twitter name. If you've got a laptop, you can go to the website. Everyone's got some form of laptop here, and you can vote via the web. So let's get what's happening. So someone's got an iPhone. Yes, excellent. So the iPhone got there first. So people with basic cell phones are obviously finding it hard to send a text message.
Does it decide whether you want to spend the 75 cents or not for this?
You have 3 alternatives, so you don't have to spend 75 cents.
I assumed you got a Twitter account.
You just go straight to the web.
Does it record it as well?
Scroll up.
You want to
see your
yes.
Twitter username.
Okay, so these will be updating live. It depends how fast it comes through on the SMS server, of course. so maybe a little slight delay. This is a tool that we use with our students quite often, and we actually get our students to create their own polls and use these to interact with other students around the world. So what they'll do is they'll create the poll and tweet a link to it, and because they're following each other on Twitter, and it's asynchronous, it doesn't matter when that arrives, they can pick it up and vote. So we've got 3 iPhones, 1 other smartphone, so there's one poor person in the audience who really wants an iPhone but can't afford it. An Android phone, there we go, yeah, finally. Yep. What I normally find is the BlackBerry is always very low on this because most BlackBerry users don't know how to send text messages. All they do is email. Okay, well, we'll let that update in the background and we'll come back to it later. So, what we're talking about today is what I've been working with for journalism. So I've done over 35 mobile learning projects since 2006. And this is just one that we did last year with a journalism lecturer, obviously. So my role as an academic advisor, I work with lecturers and I help them with integrating technology and what that can do for their teaching, how we can perhaps change the teaching learning process, help them rethink ideas. So we call it Journalism 2.0 because we're looking at how we can perhaps in some ways reinvent journalism education. So someone's just gone to the link or something. So here's a QR code. This will take you to this presentation. It's a little bit funny, so it may not scan, but you can give it a try if you've got a QR code reader. Okay. Someone managed to decode that? We can come back to it later. If we just go back and give you the actual URL, so there is a short URL for that. So it's this one here, bit.ly/journalism20, okay, because I couldn't put a 2 point, didn't make a URL properly. So journalism20 using bit.ly, that's a short code to take you to the presentation if the QR code is not working for you. And here's the reason why we're looking at this within journalism. This is from the Guardian newspaper. So hopefully the stream's down. It's going live on YouTube. It's going to have to buffer a few seconds by the looks of it. And really, the basis of the project was that journalism talks about the use of Twitter. And this is an example of using social media.
Three little pigs are the victims. They down 2 houses. Is that what you did?
But the thing's went too far. Getting right into paying a
Boiling someone alive hardly constitutes reasonable
the thing's going to break the law and intruder.
You have to protect yourself in your own home.
Man's home is his castle.
Someone tried to blow my house down, I'll do the same.
I knew the wolf. There's no way you could have blown down those houses. He had asthma.
The wolf had asthma. So what's the truth about the pig's houses being blown down? Inside job.
There's no reason why those 2 houses, one made from straw, the other from wood, should have collapsed. Not even a healthy wolf's huff and puff could bring them down.
The 3 little pigs have confessed to conspiring to commit insurance fraud, framing the wolf in an attempt to cover their tracks. Their motive was financial, as they struggled to keep up with their mortgage repayments.
So this is The Guardian, came out a week ago. They just released this video on YouTube of how they see social media Web2 impacting journalism.
Got my little white pins too. Lost everything.
So things like Twitter, how Twitter and because you're all on your example from The Guardian of how they see that social media is reinventing the whole experience of journalism. But the issue that we have is it hasn't actually been really transforming journalism education. There's been disconnect. So what actually happens is, this is Helen, who's the journalism lecturer, what she would do is she would tell the students of case studies of how Twitter has impacted the news stories and journalism, and how the news got there first via social media. But when students turned up to class, she would tell them to turn their phones off because it was distracting, because they were all updating their Facebook status. And so there was actually no integration of the tools that she was talking about into the teaching and learning process. It was all just theoretical. So the first time I met Helen, we had this discussion, and it was, she said, well, when I go into class, I tell my students to turn their phones off, because it's just a blooming distraction, it's just a pain in the arse, and I want them to listen to me. And so I said, well, why? Why do you tell them to turn the phones off? Why not? Why aren't you actually using Twitter as a journalist teacher? Why aren't you getting students maybe to even use Twitter in the class? And she'd never thought about it. So we started brainstorming, we got together, we formed a basic community practice with Helen and a couple of other colleagues who wanted to perhaps look at how they could change the way they did teaching and learning via social and mobile media. So this is just another link, which is just the same as the URL that's below it. It's just a bit shorter, obviously. So this is a link to SoundCloud, and it's Helen talking about the justification for what we're doing or why we're doing it. So I just recorded Helen doing a presentation. She can't actually be here physically, but this is her talking via SoundCloud, so hopefully this streams.
I've got one of my colleagues and another one that should be here soon, making up our community of practice. And Danny and I actually started last semester introducing social media into the teaching of journalism. Now, journalism as a practice has been at the cutting edge of developing the use of social media through crowdsourcing, finding sources. They have, journalists across the world have been putting social media to use in gathering their stories and in driving traffic to their websites. The teaching of journalism, on the other hand, has actually been lagging behind the practice. We always like to think of ourselves in academics as being the leaders, really, of the practice. That's just not been the case recently in journalism. And I actually travelled to the UK and to the US to look at what was happening in newsrooms and also in universities, and found that it's only in the last semester or two that teaching in the UK at Cardiff and in a leading school in the United States have actually been introducing social media teaching. So we're actually kind of ahead of the game, really, at AUT in trying to bring experiential, or authentic, to use that word again, experiences into the classroom. Traditionally, of course, you would teach a case study. Here's what journalists are doing. We're actually trying to make it that they're doing it within the classroom, so that when they get out there, they're ready for it. And they're using it socially, students, but they're not necessarily using it professionally. So that can lead to problems as well. And this was happening at the BBC, where people were using their personal life and mixing it with their professional, and ending up often giving away stories before they'd actually been on air. That's a big no-no. So, the actual professional use of this media. Also, it's getting a bit irritating in class. I don't know about you lot, but people were texting away. They were actually disappearing from the classroom while the class was going on. And by bringing the experience of social media within the classroom, we actually found that they were actually exiting it a little bit less. So we're just developing that and expanding the use of the tools. We're going to bring Storyfy on board as well, which is a great way for journalists to tell a story. They can, bring all those social media snippets of the story that are being told out there and bring it together in